Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching third part of What If Naruto Was Betrayed and Destroyed Konoha. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Suna was a village in a desert region where few had the courage to live, let alone endure the harsh weather. Rippling winds, sand as far as the eye could see, intense heat during the day, and freezing cold at night. Water was considered more valuable than gold in this location because you couldn't bribe the desert with paper money. In this place, if you had water, you used it sparingly and didn't share it with anyone because you were fighting for your own survival. "I hate this fucking desert," exclaimed Fu as she struggled to walk through the vast ocean of sand surrounding her and glared at Naruto, who was acting as if nothing was wrong. Seriously? Was he even alive? "Calm down. You'll save energy that way," Naruto said, as Fu grumbled at him. "How can you be so cool and collected in this place? I'm wearing less than you and I'm drenched in sweat," exclaimed Fu before blushing as she realized her clothes were soaked and slightly see-through. Thank goodness he was walking in front of her, Kami. "Training and patience," Naruto replied before making hand gestures and blasting a blast of wind through the sand to make a path easier to walk. "How long until we get there?" Fu inquired as Naruto returned his gaze to her, and the girl blushed because she was certain he could see right through her wet transparent clothing. "Not long. Less than an hour," Naruto replied, with Fu sighing because she needed to get out of the hot sun. "Good. The sooner we get inside, the sooner I can cool off, take a shower, and get some nice wet weather clothing." Fu reflected to herself. It was nearly nightfall by the time the two arrived at Suna's gates. It was cold, Fu was in full-fledged rage, and they were surrounded by Suna shinobi demanding their identification. Overall, things are looking up. Still, Fu's frail patience wasn't helping to keep the peace, so Naruto asked Gaara to meet with him on urgent matters. The Suna shinobi were hesitant to comply with the request, which enraged Fu even more, and the girl exploded in rage, her voice echoing throughout Wind Country. "You listen here, Baka. I want to go inside, get new clothes, clean up, and get some long overdue sleep. Now go get the cage or so help me, I'll do something that will make the Biju wet themselves," yelled Fu, a look of fury on her face telling the Suna shinobi. "Nicely put," Naruto replied, with Fu growling at him. "Don't push me, pal. I want to get inside and regain the strength this desert drained from me," Fu shot back, Naruto smirking. "Just stating the obvious," Naruto replied with a chuckle, and Fu huffed. "You wanted to see me?" Gaara asked, emerging from a sandstorm with his siblings right behind him. "Gaara, it's been a long time," Naruto said, as Gaara frowned at him. "Do I know you?" Gaara asked, as many of the Suna shinobi around them became tense. "Surely you haven't forgotten me after 2 years?" Naruto asked before removing the cloth from in front of Gaara's face, and Gaara's eyes widened. "Is that you, Naruto?" Gaara asked, with Naruto chuckling at the cages and his siblings' reactions. "Who else at the age of 12 could have summoned Toad Boss Gamabunta and taken you down while your body was possessed by Shukaku?" asked Naruto, to which Gaara nodded because few people knew the specifics of that fight. "You've changed," Gaara replied, while Naruto gave him a sad smile. "Unfortunately, yes, but I assure you that the change was for the better." "I need your help, Gaara." "We need your help," Naruto said, smiling at Gaara. "And you will have it, my friend," Gaara said with two shaking hands, and the tension vanished. "It's difficult to believe that's Uzumaki Naruto. He used to be a short, loudmouthed, orange-haired shrimp, and now he's this," thought Temari, who was impressed and felt her face warming up for some reason. "Who is she?" Gaara asked, turning Naruto's head to look at Fu. One of us, Naruto replied, and Gaara's eyes widened in surprise. What number? Gaara asked Fu, who was holding up 7 fingers. Lucky number 7. I hear you hold number 1, Fu replied, nodding. Yes. Come inside. You're probably tired from your travels, Gaara said, knowing how harsh the desert could be at any time. You have no idea, I'm sweating profusely as I walk through the never-ending wave of sand, and this guy barely breaks a sweat. Exclaimed Fu as Naruto smirked at her. My clothing is designed to handle all environmental temperatures, and the climate control seals embedded in it don't hurt either, Naruto replied, leaving Fu stunned and then enraged. You had seals on your clothing the entire time and didn't bother sharing them with me during the fucking desert trek. Why? Fu asked, glaring daggers at him. For one thing, you never asked how I dealt with the weather. Your body while I was making such alterations in the first place, replied Naruto, leaving Fu speechless and unable to find anything wrong with his response. He has you, my young larva. Besides, I don't believe you're ready to show him your body just yet. You need to mature a little more before you can seek him out before performing the mating dance and enticing him to bed, Chimei replied, as the girl's face turned red and shook violently to get the idea of being with Naruto in that manner. Can you make the changes once I've found several outfits to wear? Asked Fu, with Naruto nodding because he could. Of course, but only after you've changed your clothes. I'm not going to be accused of being a pervert while working on your clothing while you're wearing nothing, Naruto replied, seeing Fu and, surprisingly, Temari blushing at his words. He had no idea why Temari was blushing. Sometime later, Kazekage Tower. How are you doing? Gaara asked, Naruto sitting in a chair in his office while Fu slept in the apartment they were given for free. I'm actually fine. 2 years away from Konoha is beneficial to the mind. Allowed me to put some things into perspective, Naruto said calmly as he looked at Gaara and his 2 siblings stood on either side of him. I can only speculate. Since my defeat at your hands, I've had time to reflect on my own, and I've become someone worthy of the title Kazekage, Gaara explained before telling Naruto how the populace had changed as a result of information about what his own father had done to make him so that they would understand things. I'm delighted to hear that. In Suna, you've accomplished what I couldn't in Konoha. My hat is off to you in that regard, Naruto said modestly to Gaara. Thank you very much. I see you've made quite a name for yourself since leaving Konoha. The large bounty they placed on you is quite impressive, and Taki has recently placed one on you as well for taking Fu from them, Gaara said as he moved the bingo book on his desk over to Naruto for the Uzumaki to examine. Fools. They have no idea what they are doing because their hearts and minds are blocked. Iwa, Kumo, and the Akatsuki will hunt me down. They won't care about the bounty, but will only seek me out for Kyuubi, and Fu will be the same. Konoha will seek to weaken us by swooping in at the best possible time, and seek to control 2 Jinchuriki instead of just 1 now, Naruto explained, with Gaara nodding because that was a good tactic to use. What exactly do you intend to do? Gaara inquired, looking at Naruto, who smiled at him and then at the information in the bingo book. It's easy. I'm going to go to war with them. To the Akatsuki, please. Taki, please. To everyone and anyone who desires a piece of me. I'm going to war, Gaara, and I need allies, Naruto explained, pausing for Gaara to think things over. You know I'd fight alongside you, Naruto. Anytime and from any location. The Akatsuki poses a threat to all Jinchuriki. Suna and I will assist you in fighting the Akatsuki, but fighting Konoha is out of the question for the time being, Gaara replied, with Naruto nodding because Suna was still recovering from their allied invasion of the village during the Chunin exams 2 years ago. That's not an issue, Gaara. We'll start with the Akatsuki, informing and possibly recruiting the other Jinchuriki. We'll defeat the Akatsuki in groups, just as they plan to do with us in pairs. After that, we remove the various agents in each village, such as Iwa and Kumo, who believe Jinchuriki should be treated barely above the status of slaves, Naruto explained, getting out of his chair and displaying all of this on a map of the elemental countries Gaara had on the wall of his office. Weakening each village to a certain extent, but not to the point where any of the others can conquer them. Very astute. I know Mist is healing after the previous Mizukage was deposed and killed by the rebels, with the leader taking over as the new Mizukage. Terumi Mei is the name of a woman. She might be a useful ally in the future, given that her predecessor was a Jinchuriki like us. I would still keep my guard up around her, Gaara explained as Naruto nodded. I will. Don't be concerned. Before I go to Mist, I'm going to go to Iwa and try to meet the Jinchuriki there, Naruto replied, as he was close to Iwa at the time. From what I've learned since my time as Kazekage, Iwa has 2 Jinchuriki. Apparently, my father wanted me to become a weapon to counter you in Konoha should the leaf draw first blood, and Iwa should they ever wish to remove us before going after your former village, Gaara explained, raising an eyebrow. How about 2 of them? That makes my Kumo and their Jinchuriki. Though I've heard rumors that they also have 2 Jinchuriki, one of whom is also the Raikage's little brother, Gaara said, with Naruto grumbling and frowning in thought. That leaves 1 unaccounted for, Naruto replied, as Gaara shrugged. I only know what I've heard from spies and rumors, Gaara explained, sighing, though they both knew it was to be expected. During my travels, I'll find out about the last unnamed one among us. If I come across any of the Akatsuki, I'll deal with them with Fu and return here if they decide to go after you, Naruto replied, knowing that the organization would do just that. I'll be expecting you when that day comes, Gaara said, extending his hand, which Naruto accepted before shaking hands to cement the promise of one coming to save another. Meeting room, Hokage Tower. So the Kyuubi Jinchuriki has been found? Asked Danzo, with Tsunade nodding and looking around at the other members of the councils and clan heads who were hearing this detail. Either more or less. Jiraiya's spies had spotted him in Moss Country some time ago, but he was being pursued by Iwa and Kumo shinobi teams who were attempting to apprehend him. Though I doubt it was for the bounty we have out on him because I doubt the value of a Jinchuriki or the Biju they possess is that low in the minds of the other Kages wishing to use this meeting because she didn't want them shouting and demanding that she find the girl as well. Have any teams been sent out to catch the Kyuubi brat before the other villages? Homura inquired, and Tsunade nodded. Jiraiya, Kakashi, and a team he has chosen are on their way now. Hopefully, they'll find a weakened Jinchuriki and easily capture him, Tsunade replied, hoping the group's mission was successful. How about Uchiha and his injuries? Kaharu inquired, knowing that the sooner the boy was healed, the better. Sasuke is still in the hospital, needing more time to heal all of his broken bones. He should be out of the hospital by the end of next week, Tsunade said, ignoring the fact that his ability to reproduce had been damaged during her examination, but it was repairable, and the Uchiha would be unable to get his wife Sakura pregnant anytime soon. Half the retrieval team got off lightly when they were demoted to Chunin. They all should have been killed, said the Haruno councilwoman, because she wanted her daughter to be pregnant with the Uchiha's offspring in order to ensure they had ties to the clan and lived a life of luxury from now on. That required her daughter to put a bun in the oven and bring the child into the world. Well, it's not your responsibility to punish them. It's up to me because they're my shinobi. In any case, I'm confident Jiraiya and the team will return soon, and with Naruto close behind, explained Tsunade, with the group agreeing before the doors opened and Jiraiya and Kakashi entered, each holding a bag. We have a problem, and his name is Naruto, Jiraiya said before dumping the contents of the bag onto the group, revealing Iwa headbands, and Kakashi doing the same with his bag, revealing Kumo headbands. Did he kill the teams from each village that were pursuing him? Asked a surprised Tsunade, with Jiraiya nodding and sighing. When we arrived, the battle signs were at least 3 days old, and the bodies had been separated into 2 piles before being burned. All we could find were the headbands of each team in separate piles by the burning ones, Kakashi explained before telling the Hokage that they suspected Naruto did it to make a point to them because the leaf symbol was carved next to a tree with a kunai stabbed into it. How dare that demon threaten us? After all we've done for him by allowing him to live, breathe, and eat in this village. Exclaimed a civilian council member who was a little overweight and one of many outspoken individuals calling for Naruto's death when he was a baby. Apparently he does, Kakashi replied, while Tsunade sighed, knowing this was not going well for them. Where is he going now? Tsunade inquired, Jiraiya looking nervous. We're not sure. His trail went cold, and none of my spies have told me anything yet, Jiraiya replied, as Tsunade gritted her teeth and looked irritated. I believe it is time to train our children to hunt Naruto down. We need to strengthen our ranks in order to find him, Inoichi said, with the others nodding in agreement. I concur. The fox must be hunted, and an Inuzuka on the case would be a good choice for such a hunting party to be formed, Sume stated so that her own opinion could be expressed on the subject. Not to mention my own son can devise a brilliant strategy to take down the brat and devise several backup plans should the one used fail, replied one Nara Shikaku, knowing his son could take on the Uzumaki brat with enough time and training. I concur. We'll start training the clan heirs to specifically hunt down Jinchuriki, Tsunade said, making the clan heads happy. Tsunade left the meeting and went to her office, where she found Amino Iruka waiting for her, which was not surprising given that she had been treating him for serious injuries for the past 2 years and found the Chunin once more seeking help through her medical skills. Hokage-sama, I need your assistance with the pain. It's only getting worse, exclaimed Iruka, wincing and clutching the injured side. I've done everything I can to help you, Iruka. I've tried everything to keep this old injury from causing phantom pain. It's all in your head, Tsunade replied, going to work on numbing it and using her healing powers to make the pain last less long. The injury is throbbing in pain and getting worse by the day. Nothing I do works to stop this. To name a few, I've used pain medication, various forms of therapy, and your medical skills. Nothing is preventing the pain from worsening. It turns on and off at random times, Iruka explained, winced in pain, and was nearly forced to his knees by it even with Tsunade working on him. This is bad. No matter how many times I treat him, Iruka still aches from this injury, and it's that injury, Tsunade thought before deciding to admit Iruka to the hospital for observation. Did you call Tsunade-sama? Shizune inquired, her voice stiff and devoid of warmth for her former teacher. Yes. Please keep an eye on Iruka while I go through my medical research library. His injury is causing him uncontrollable pain, and even my skills don't seem to be able to cure him, Tsunade replied, ignoring the frown on the younger woman's face as she left the room, leaving the two alone. What's the deal with your frown? Iruka asked tiredly, sweat dripping from his brow, and looking at the woman glaring daggers at him. You and your stupidity, Shizune replied, as Iruka frowned at her. What idiocy? Iruka inquired, and the man struggled to sit up. Your folly in betraying Naruto. That day, I knew it was you. Only you were ever able to apprehend him while he was being pursued by the Anbu. I was told the stories. Naruto does this, and you apprehend him. Naruto accomplishes this, and you locate him where the other Anbu cannot. Take a look at yourself now. Injured by his hands, and it aches all over, Shizune replied, her voice tinged with joy as she watched Iruka struggle with the pain in his torso right now. The Kyuubi within him murdered my parents. I'm sick of staring at him and seeing their dead faces, knowing they died while he was still alive. I wanted closure, and I still do, Iruka said before winced in pain again. If that's the case, why was he saved from that Mizuki character? Shizune inquired, seeing the man's exposed injury turn crimson. I'm not sure. I guess I thought that if anyone had the right to kill Naruto, it should have been me. Mizuki did it for the glory, whereas I would have done it for the closure. I was tempted to do it after it was over when I told him to close his eyes and accept his gift. I could have slashed his throat with a kunai and just stood there watching him bleed out. But I couldn't because the Sandaime was probably watching us and had plans for Naruto to become the village's weapon. So I kept my hand still. I blamed Naruto for another piece of myself dying after the third Hokage died. I still do because he could have stayed in Konoha to protect its people instead of chasing after the already weakened Jinchuriki, Iruka explained bitterly to Shizune, her eyes filled with shock and horror. I cannot believe it. Naruto bleeds for this place, repeatedly proving he's not a monster for the idiots of this village, and what do? You attempt to murder him. I hope the pain from that wound never goes away. I hope it consumes you until the day you die and follows you to hell. Exclaimed Shizune before exiting the room. Hey. What are your plans? You can't leave me here like this on the orders of the Hokage, Iruka retorted, and Shizune stiffened at the door. Iruka, I'm leaving this room. You can suffer alone in that bed in silence, as Naruto did while growing up in this village. It's time to feel his pain for a moment and then decide if he owes you anything. Shizune said quietly before leaving the room, ignoring Iruka's call. Shizune couldn't care less about what he did or whether Tsunade punished her. Country of the Earth. We've killed 3 Iwa patrols around here. It shouldn't be this heavily guarded here, Fu said, looking around at the shinobi bodies. These shinobi weren't patrolling the neighborhood, Fu. They were protecting something. Or rather, some people they don't want found, Naruto explained, flicking blood off his blade before sheathing it. Correct, said a gruff voice from the shadows, stopping Naruto and Fu in their tracks. We mean no harm, Naruto replied, a gruff chuckle coming from the trees. Those Iwa shinobi you murdered say otherwise, the now skeptical voice said. We are not your adversaries. We're just like you. Jinchuriki here. Exclaimed Fu, shaking his head at her because she had jumped the gun in telling them that. Really? Which ones, and which village? Asked another voice, though in a quieter tone. Fu here has Nanabi, and I have Kyuubi. As for villages, we don't answer to any of them, Naruto replied, followed by a deathly silence. This is not a good sign. You're lying, said the gruff voice before a chakra flare and lava was directed at them. This is not a good sign. How am I deceiving you? As he dodged the attack and saw Fu roll out of the way, Naruto asked as heavy steam rolled in around them. All Jinchuriki are from the same village. None of them have left and lived long enough to enjoy their newfound liberty. Said the gruff voice before hurling more lava at them. You clearly haven't been kept up to date on some things. Not surprising, given the Tsuchikage's fear of you doing the same, Naruto replied as he felt the steam surround him and Fu before sensing a large figure behind him. A large figure wielding a large fist. Naruto gritted his teeth as he grabbed the massive fist with his palm and looked right into the man's eyes with his own. The two stared at each other in the face, with the armored man in front of the Uzumaki narrowing his eyes at him before it became an all-out taijutsu fight. Naruto had to admit, The big guy could move fast when he had to, and yet could take blows to the body thanks to the armor he. As for Fu, she was engaging a red-haired man with a beard, who was making her fight at a distance, and she had to use superior speed to dodge. Each one eyeing the other carefully while gauging them with critical eyes. The lava the bearded man sent Fu's way was fast, but the girl was faster and more nimble, so evading them wasn't difficult. It was getting close enough to hit the man that was difficult because the terrain was now. Stop! Yelled a voice that could have belonged to Naruto, Fu, or the girl's opponent. It was Naruto's adversary. Han? As his fellow Jinchuriki stopped fighting the blonde, the red-haired and bearded man inquired. I've seen and felt everything I need from this one. He speaks the truth, Roshi, Han explained as he gave Naruto a bow in honor of the one-eyed Uzumaki. Are you certain? Roshi inquired, knowing that when Han told him something about someone, he was usually correct. Yes, Han replied simply before walking around Naruto to Roshi's side, while Fu looked perplexed. Is that it? We all became friends after one fight? You could have simply asked for proof, like the bingo book or something. Fu exclaimed, chuckling and shaking his head. True, but I find that fighting someone is the best way to learn about them. Your friend was holding back, his eyes showed no deception to his reason for being here, and my Biju was telling me that each of you has a Biju stronger than either of us. If you meant us harm, we would have lost if you summoned their power, Han explained while Roshi looked the Uzumaki in the blue eye. I've seen eyes like that before, Gaki. I haven't seen those eyes since I was last Shinobi War with Konoha. You're his son? Roshi inquired, noticing Naruto's one eye narrow. Why? Do you want to fulfill a blood oath you made to a long-dead comrade and kill me in vengeance? Asked Naruto, who noticed Roshi shake his head. No. I'm just curious. Based on your hair and eyes, I'm assuming you're the Yondaime Hokage's son. His hair and eyes are unique. In fact, you are the only one I've seen with those characteristics, and given how young you are. Roshi explained, a slight accusation in the air about his assumption being correct. Yes. His son is me. Despite the fact that I received none of the fame and glory that came with being his son. For obvious reasons, as you both know given what we four are to the shinobi villages, Naruto explained, while Han and Roshi nodded in agreement. You came here for a business meeting with the two of us. So. Speak up and tell us why you're here, Han replied, curious as to why these two rogue Jinchuriki were in enemy territory, which could spark an international incident or war if it was discovered they were there. I'm writing to warn you about the Akatsuki organization. They're after us, and we need to band together to fight them. Fu explained before Naruto went into more detail about his own encounter with two of them and how their abilities rendered Kyuubi's chakra useless in battle. And that the other Akatsuki members were no doubt doing the same thing when it came to negating a Biju's power during a battle. Iwa would never do anything to harm either of us. We're too valuable for them to lose to such an organization, Roshi said firmly as Fu turned away from them for a moment, and Naruto sighed at the man's obstinacy. Are you certain? Inquired Naruto, who doubted Tsuchikage or Iwa in general cared about them. Before your arrival, we had some skirmishes with the Akatsuki. Han and I, along with several Junin, were able to repel them, Roshi stated confidently, despite Han's solemn expression. Barely, and not without casualties on our end, while the Akatsuki members were able to flee, Han added, and Naruto nodded. And they'll keep attacking until Iwa gets tired of defending you too, at which point they'll abandon you to fend for yourselves. Your one's too high. Something is going to give sooner or later, and the Akatsuki, and no doubt your skirmish with the three squads here before coming to us will prove you right, Roshi replied, knowing that the mess these two created would enrage the Tsuchikage. Given that a team of Iwa shinobi was sent after the two of us not long ago, what would you expect me to do when we were suddenly attacked by them? Asked Naruto. Han and Roshi looked sheepish. That's an excellent point. Still, we'll keep an eye out for the Akatsuki, and thank you for the warning, Han said, noting that it wasn't often they were told something useful. Our name is Jinchuriki. We must remain united in the face of adversity. Also, if things get really bad for you in terms of living in Iwa, you should come with us, Naruto said, as the two were taken aback by the offer and looked at each other for a moment. We must respectfully say no. For the time being, Roshi replied, with Han nodding in agreement. Loyalty to one's village until the bitter end. I understand your reasoning, and I respect it, Naruto said before bowing and leaving with Fu right behind him. You could have displayed the sword to them. I made them follow you that way, Fu said, clearly surprised he hadn't done so after seeing the Uzumaki shake his head. I will not force them to join in this manner. It would be compelled. When we come together for our common cause, it will be of their own free will, not because of what is in my blood, Naruto explained, looking at Fu, who was absorbing his words with sudden admiration in her eyes. What comes next? Fu inquired, intrigued. Kumo. We have a long journey ahead of us. Don't expect them to be as polite as Han and Roshi were with us. No two villages raise Jinchuriki in the same way, and one of them is the Raikage's little brother, Naruto explained, with Fu nodding. We still need at least 2 countries as allies for when you carry out the master plan you told me about on your way over here, Fu reminded Naruto, who nodded because he hadn't forgotten. One is Wave Country, and the other is Spring. Once I reach the Spring Daimyo, I will put her in touch with Wave and work our way from there, Naruto explained, not wanting any of his future plans picked up by Jiraiya's spies lurking in the shadows. He would also mentally remind himself to recruit his own spies to counter the Sannin network. Konoha right now. Man, this training is awful. Kiba exclaimed, having not been pushed this hard in. Well, ever. Kiba didn't mind that his mother had run him into the ground with this new training to hunt down and capture Naruto to be brought back to Konoha because Naruto was a fox in human skin and dogs were meant to hunt them down. Sasume, with Hana's help, had begun training Kiba how to track using his sense of smell, hearing, and looking at the terrain for possible signs of deception via multiple tracks leading everywhere. And it wasn't just Kiba who was being drilled into the ground with this training. Shikamaru was receiving the same training in terms of using strategies, planning ahead of time, developing contingency plans, and manipulating shadows to disable if not kill the opponent. Yoshino even gave the two space to train because she had never seen her husband work their son so hard and decided to let them go at it uninterrupted because it was a rare sight to see. Inoichi basically grounded his daughter from almost everything she called fun and had her work on the family jutsus that targeted the mind. How to disable, possess, manipulate, erase, and steal information from the mind. Not only that, but he had her get off the stupid diet she was on and work on getting muscle on her skinny bones. He also used Sasuke to help motivate his daughter to do that by telling Ino that the Uchiha wouldn't even consider the idea of marrying her. It worked perfectly. Shibi was currently assisting his son Shino in his attempt to teach his hive how to detect a Bijuu's chakra signature by crossbreeding certain insects to create new ones capable of doing so naturally. The idea Shibi came up with was that such insects under Shino's command could help provide pinpoint accuracy of the Jinchuriki, that by using the Kyuubi's chakra trail Naruto always leaked, they would be able to find him no matter where Naruto went, and Hinata and Neji were both being trained by their Hiashi to deprive Naruto of his chakra and, to a lesser extent, Kyuubi's chakra. No one outside of the Hyuga clan knew more about the chakra network than they did thanks to the Byakugan, and Hiashi was going over the key points on where they were to strike Naruto. Neji had respectfully pointed out to Hiyashi that Naruto had reopened his chakra network, but his uncle told him. Hinata was hesitant to learn this, knowing what, or rather who, it would be used on when the time came. She didn't want to hurt Naruto. She never did. In fact, the Hyuga girl didn't understand why Konoha treated him badly after the success of retrieving Sasuke 2 years ago, and still doesn't to this day. She knew about Kyuubi, as it wasn't a big secret anymore, or at all back when Hinata was younger. Hinata was skeptical. Tenten was the most weapon-based of the group, with a few jutsus, but couldn't contribute outside of that, and was instead instructed on the vital spots of the body when dealing with Jinchuriki, and making him lose a limb wasn't a problem. It wasn't encouraged either. They also told Tenten she should stick to long-range throwing weapons because her aim was unmatched by the entire group her age, and only move into close range where Naruto was. The rest of the rookies and guys team would now join forces with their Junin senseis to train their students to the ground. They would discover what their parents had taught them and observe it in action, while reporting their observations to their at-home teachers. If they lacked expectations with clan techniques, their parents would drill them harder, and the Junin would pick up the slack while a new Junin named Tenzo explained the nature of his abilities to them, so they would expect his intervention during their inevitable encounter with the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Deal with it, Kiba. It's meant to build up your stamina so you can stand a fighting chance against Naruto's own. He has more stamina in his body than all of us combined, and that was before he left 2 years ago. No doubt it's several times what it was before, and you need to up your game to have even a fraction of it in order to fight him, explained Kakashi, with the rookies and guys team realizing. Kakashi is correct, my youthful students. Remember in the Chunin exam preliminaries, Lee fought Sabaku no Gaara, and was pushed to his limits with Suna's Jinchuriki still having the power to fight if only barely. Sabaku no Gaara holds the weakest of the Biju, while Naruto holds the strongest. If the weakest of them could do that to Lee, imagine what Naruto could do with Kyuubi's power, and without a means. It was not an enjoyable thought to consider. So we have to hit him with everything we have or else we'll fail, Ino said, seeing Asuma nod. That, and teamwork. You'll need to coordinate your attacks perfectly to take him down. Even without using the Biju's power, the brat is unpredictable, and moves in ways not even Shikamaru will expect, Asuma explained while Shikamaru groaned because he knew whatever strategy he devised would require thinking outside the box, and the normal plans he would devise for fighting anyone else. Don't worry though, because we'll be there to help you, and Jiraiya-sama will also provide additional assistance when necessary to ensure Naruto can't be stopped, Kurenai reassured the group that would be hunting the demon brat. The woman also looked at Hinata, who wasn't as excited about this, and frowned slightly because she knew what was going on in that girl's head. And what if Naruto-kun wants to be alone? Hinata inquired, and the Junin around her raised their eyebrows at the girl. The growing pile of dead bodies by his hands says otherwise, Hinata, Kurenai replied, and Hinata didn't look her in the eyes. And I'm sure the shinobi he killed weren't after his bounty or because he has the Kyuubi sealed in his gut, Hinata countered as she noticed Kurenai's eyes narrow. That's enough. I know you have feelings for Naruto, and I had hoped they would leave as these 2 years progressed, but if you're going to jeopardize our mission to capture Naruto, you might as well leave and continue your training elsewhere, Kurenai replied, and Hinata shook her head no. She'd stay to train. To become stronger she would reluctantly assist them, but only to a point, and if the need arose to sabotage their plans to capture him, the Hyuga girl would do just that. I will do whatever it takes to complete the mission, Hinata said, her gaze fixed on her sensei and the master of Genjutsu among the adults teaching them. Good. I'll hold that for you, Hinata. The day you break it, you'll regret ever having feelings for Naruto, Kurenai said sternly, but Hinata surprisingly narrowed her eyes at the older woman and didn't flinch. And the day we finally confront Naruto, you and the others here will regret betraying him. Including me, Hinata replied, as she already was, but resolved herself to keep going, knowing what to do when the time came, and figuring out how to do it without being caught. If she couldn't sabotage the group in some way, Hinata could only hope Naruto understood she didn't want him to be their pawn again. Near Kumo, Lightning Country. When they arrived, Yugito was dealing with bandits. She didn't know who they were at first, but Nibi warned her not to cross the one wielding the sword. He slashed through anyone who got in his way and used a powerful fire jutsu on some bandits who were trying to flank her from behind. The green-haired girl was speeding around, stabbing anything in her path that she recognized as an enemy. Yugito could tell the girl was a Jinchuriki because of the yellow chakra she possessed from the Biju she possessed, but the boy was a different story, and he was still trying to figure him out. Stay focused. You can ask me questions later when this is over, Naruto said as he made one-handed hand gestures and stabbed the ground with his sword. As a result, streaks of crimson-yellow lightning traveled through the earth towards some unsuspecting bandits, who exploded shortly after being hit by such an intense blast, causing the remaining enemy forces to flee in terror. It was interesting to hear them call him a demon, monster, beast, and even a fiend of all things without feeling offended. Naruto was called those things in Konoha, as well as some harsher ones he'd rather not think about right now. Here he was, violently killing bandits and being called all those names, and yet Naruto felt nothing but pride at being called this. To his adversaries, he was all of those things. Uzumaki Naruto was a fiend to his enemies. I want some answers right freaking now, demanded Yugito, who walked over to Naruto and would have grabbed him by the neck to extract the answers if the girl wasn't in her way. Back off, kitty. Or I'll show you how many ways there are to skin a cat, Fu exclaimed as she took a fighting stance with her two kunai in her hands. You think I'm afraid of you, girl? Ha. I have Nibi's power completely under my control. I'm not afraid of some upstart punk who probably can't control her Biju's power to its full potential, and considering you used up more energy than me, I'm sure I have the edge here, Yugito replied confidently, with Fu growling and Naruto himself turning slightly to look at her. Enough. Do not put her or me to the test. We came here to speak with you and the one called Killer Bee. The man is the other Jinchuriki of Kumo, correct? Said Naruto, seeing Yugito stiffen. So what if he is? Why do you need to speak with us? Wait. It's about the Akatsuki. I'm sure you've heard of them or even fought a pair of them at some point, Naruto replied, noting Yugito's tense expression. But several patrols were out at the time and were able to prevent them from taking me away, Yugito said, and Naruto nodded in agreement. They are S-class missing nin, so the fact that you survived and escaped is no mere foot. How many casualties did Kumo suffer in helping you? Said Naruto as Yugito hissed at him. Why? So you can mock Kumo for being weak? Yugito shot back, and Naruto narrowed his eyes at her before turning to face the woman. Kitten. Don't be a fool. That weapon is the sword of Jubi. Forged from the fang of the beast that all 9 Biju were one being before the Sage of 6 Paths separated us into our own individual forms. To wield it like that means the blonde is the direct descendant of the sage himself. Nibi exclaimed fearfully, and Yugito's eyes widened in shock with a hint of fear. Answer my question. How many did you lose? Naruto demanded, and Yugito shifted from a dominant to a nervous woman. Her Biju clearly told her the identity of the weapon in his hand and its significance in the past. We had 3 Anbu squads out on patrol at the time. We lost 2, and the 3rd squad was badly injured, Yugito replied, with Naruto nodding because it seemed about right for an S-ranked missing nin to do that much damage when fighting so many Anbu and a Jinchuriki in full control of her Biju's powers. You're lucky you survived, just like the Jinchuriki in Iwa, Naruto said, and Yugito looked surprised to learn she wasn't the only one being targeted. You met them? Yugito asked, surprised because she hadn't expected Jinchuriki to meet because they were from different villages. I did. I met Han, Roshi, and Sabaku no Gara as an old friend of mine from Suna. Fu here was from Taki and I was from Konoha. Our purpose is to reach all of the Jinchuriki in the elemental countries and warn them of the Akatsuki. However, the Mizukage is dead, we can't get into Kumo to see Killer Bee, and there is one Jinchuriki left unaccounted for that his village has yet to identify. I'd heard rumors about the organization, but nothing too conclusive. We've been unable to learn more about them, Yugito replied, and Naruto nodded in agreement. Talk to Killer Bee and even the Raikage if you want. This organization is a threat to all the hidden villages, not just Kumo. How do the people in your village treat you? Naruto inquired, and Yugito frowned. Like a normal person. Why? Weren't either of you treated fairly? Yugito asked, noticing the two Jinchuriki exchange glances before laughing. Are you serious? They treated us like slaves. Like weapons. Like useless tools, Naruto replied, and Fu nodded in agreement to show Yugito he wasn't lying. I'm sorry, I had no idea, Yugito admitted, explaining that she had never seen any of it. As I told Fu here about Jinchuriki and the village they come from. No two villages work the same way when raising their Jinchuriki, Naruto explained, and Yugito nodded. What is your name? Yugito inquired, having never received it. Uzumaki Naruto, formerly of Konoha, Naruto replied, seeing Yugito's eyes widen even more. Uzumaki? As in the son of Uzumaki Kushina? Yugito inquired, and Naruto frowned. Yes. How do you know my mother? Naruto asked, his tone telling the woman she had better speak up now or face hell. Kumo had tried to capture your mother years ago. Back during the Third Shinobi War, the Raikage wanted her in Kumo for the Uzumaki bloodline she held since Whirlpool was destroyed in the previous one. The current Raikage and his little brother Killer Bee were among those assigned to the mission before Konoha's Yellow Flash and future Yondaime Hokage stepped in to save her. That moron, my father, even betrayed the words he preached to the enemy about how to help Jinchuriki reach their full potential, Naruto reflected before opening his eyes and looking at the woman in front of him. What if I granted you an audience with the Raikage? Yugito surprised the two. Why? So he can add 2 more Jinchuriki to his arsenal? Fu wondered, as she didn't trust anyone except Naruto at this point. No, he's not like that at all, Yugito explained, but there's more to the story about how Uzumaki Kushina was nearly captured and a secondary reason for it. Naruto looked her in the eyes. Does she tell the truth? With the fox staring at him, Naruto thought to Kyuubi. Every word, Kyuubi replied, and Naruto returned his attention to Yugito. Fine. I'll speak to your Raikage in person, but it'll just be me going, and I want the man's little brother there as well, Naruto said, and Fu appeared instantly. Yes, Naruto-sama? Fu asked, while Naruto groaned inwardly because she had only recently begun calling him that and had no intention of stopping. Keep your ears open and your eyes sharp while I'm gone. If I'm not back in 2 days, something went wrong, and I've been taken prisoner for reconditioning. I want you to go to Wave Country. It's a safe place with people you can trust, Naruto whispered, and Fu turned to look at Yugito for a moment before looking back at him and giving a firm nod. Do you think it'll come down to that, Naruto-sama? Fu asked, and the Uzumaki considered it for a moment. Maybe. Maybe not. I hope it doesn't, and this doesn't turn out bad for either of us. Just keep your guard up until my return, Naruto replied, noticing the girl nod. Yes, Naruto-sama, Fu replied before leaping into the trees, causing Naruto to sigh. And just call me Naruto, not Naruto-sama. As if I'm some kage or daimyo of a country, because I'm not, Naruto said, knowing Fu wouldn't listen and accepting it for now. Perhaps not, but you don't have to be either to get such respect, Yugito thought as he examined him more closely and had to admit Naruto was something else. Oh, how cute. My kitten has a crush. Nibi teased, and Yugito blushed as he mentally glared at the demonic cat. What? I don't. I only recently met him. Yugito mused, Nibi snickered. True, but I can feel your body's sudden reaction to him and my words, and I don't blame you for feeling this way. The boy is only a few years younger than you, but I can tell from seeing him with your eyes that he's well built, and is a very powerful warrior worthy of you. So if you do decide to settle down and make a litter for yourself, this is the guy to do it with, Nibi said as Yugito blushed further and began screaming. After we accompany Naruto-kun to the Raikage, we'll have a long private discussion about this. Yugito thought as Nibi smiled deviously at her. Naruto-kun? Such affection for his name. Oh, I'm looking forward to our little discussion later. This is going to be so much fun, exclaimed Nibi, and Yugito had to bite back the groan she wanted to let out. Yugito had a long day ahead of him. The Raikage Tower. When not in his office as a kage, the Raikage, a man called A by his family, was a man with an impressive body, heavily muscled from years of intense training that would rival, if not surprise, Maeda Gai's own, and a sharp mind to match. Many years ago, he had the honor of attempting to kidnap Uzumaki Kushina for her bloodline due to its rarity on his predecessor's command, and another honor of surviving a fight with the future Yondaime Hokage. The Namikaze taught the secret to helping his brother control his Biju, and the revelation changed everything in Kumo when he became Raikage. Growing up, his younger brother B had had a semi-good life because A's predecessor believed in forging his Jinchuriki to be tough and to take hits in life that would make them better in the long run. B had survived it all thanks to A and his timely interventions when things got out of hand, while B himself came to terms with who he was. The man had decided to change the way things happened in Kumo after A became Raikage, and just in time for Yugito to receive the Nibi into her body. The girl had grown up without the hatred that Jinchuriki are normally exposed to in life, but she was aware of rumors about how things used to be. When she first learned about the Biju, she asked B about it, but A's little brother wouldn't say anything, even though the blonde girl knew from his unreadable facial expression that it was true. Sometimes not getting an answer to a question is an answer in and of itself. However, it may not be the answer you seek or prefer. What made him think of this now? Akatsuki as an organization. They had been attacking in pairs, probing Kumo's defenses and, if rumors about them hunting Jinchuriki were true, probing the defenses of the other villages as well. Though A would bet his favorite set of home barbells that the rumors of the organization targeting all Jinchuriki are true. That is, he would have to figure out a way to... Raikage-sama, I need to speak with you, Yugito called from out before the doors opened to reveal the woman with a familiar-looking face from the bingo book. Clearly, if bringing the infamous Uzumaki Naruto to my office is any indication, I think congratulations are in order, A said, calculatingly eyeing Naruto and noticing the blonde had eyes he had seen a long time ago. But the Raikage could still remember seeing that eye color staring at him with that level of intensity from another man of incredible skill, and it was making the muscled man's hair stand on end. He's not here to join Kumo, nor did I capture him, Raikage-sama. He's here to talk to you and Killer B-sama, Yugito explained, with a raising an eyebrow, looking at Naruto, and then the jumble of bodies knocked unconscious in the hallway. So it would appear given the bodies on the ground outside my office, A said calmly, but his tone told Yugito that he was making a concerted effort not to act violently yet, and he wanted a damn good reason for it. They were preventing me from entering to see you about the Akatsuki organization and the Jinchuriki living here, asked the Raikage, knowing that the boy's position as Kyuubi's jailer had him salivating at the prospect of having a stronger advantage over his rivals. He wields the sword of Jubi, Yugito said, flinching away from the Raikage's glare as he noticed the Raikage's eyes widen. The sword of Jubi is a myth. An ancient legend. Any blade claiming to be that is a fake carbon copy, a shot back before turning to face Naruto. Or, more specifically, where Naruto had been and only saw the now empty space he once occupied. Look for yourself up close and personal with your own two eyes, Naruto said coldly, the sword of Jubi pressing against the man's throat and his mouth near his ear. I was surprised the brat could move so quickly, and Yugito was as well, because she had never seen him move from his previous position. The Raikage, for his part, could stare at the blade near his neck, which Naruto could cut through his flesh and end his life in a heartbeat if he so desired. With the exception of B, there was no real successor who could replace him as Raikage, but it was unknown if the people of Kumo would accept that given how the previous Mizukage in Mist was a Jinchuriki, and had gone psycho with power before being overthrown. It only served to demonstrate to those who despised Jinchuriki that they were unfit to lead and could be vengeful toward those who wronged them. Of course, one could argue that Jinchuriki would not do so if the village that would appoint them as Kage didn't scorn, hate, and/or abuse them. Sabaku no Gaara was proof of this, and before becoming Kage, he was thought to be an insane psychopath. It's the real deal, Raikage-sama, Yugito said after the tension in the room became so thick she could almost see it. Yes. So it is. Please remove it from my neck, Uzumaki Naruto. You are here to speak civilly with me, correct? The asked, and Naruto smirked slightly before complying with the request. Yes, I did. Please ask your brother to come here. I want to talk with him as well, Naruto replied, and the Raikage dispatched a messenger bird to fly to his brother and invite him to meet him. Hey bro. What's got you so gung-ho? Killer Bee asked moments later, and Naruto couldn't help but sweat when he heard the man's horrible way of speaking. Is he always like this? Naruto asked Yugito, who could only sigh and rub her brow. You have no idea, Yugito replied as he noticed Killer Bee staring at Naruto's sword. Is that the sword of old? It doesn't look like it has an inch of mold on it. Killer Bee asked, with Naruto and the Raikage both looking annoyed. For entirely different reasons. Damn it, Bee. What have I told you about rapping in my office? Exclaimed A, glaring angrily at his younger brother. Not to do it. I'm Killer Bee, but you bro are a killjoy. B replied, avoiding the heavy paperweight thrown at him. Look. I don't have time to deal with your rapping, and there's someone here who wants to meet you. Could wait until later. 2 words. The future. Or, to be more precise, our future, Naruto replied before motioning for B to sit and doing the same before speaking to them all. The day was going to be long. Days after Konoha. I've got a hit on Naruto. Exclaimed Jiraiya in Tsunade's office, where the woman was buried under mountains of paperwork that never seemed to end. Where? Demanded Tsunade, with Jiraiya producing a map and pointing to Naruto's current location. Here in Wave Country. A merchant friend of mine was setting up shop there and saw him with Fu heading for the docks to get on a ship to Spring Country. The ship itself doesn't leave for another 2 days. Jiraiya explained, Tsunade's eyes widening, and she smiled. Get the team together. I want you out the door to Wave Country in 15 minutes and not a second longer. Bring both Jinchuriki here, Jiraiya. I want those 2 leashed and bound to my office chair by the end of the week. Tsunade demanded, and Jiraiya grinned. I'm already on it. exclaimed Jiraiya before revealing himself to be a shadow clone with a poof. "We've got you now, Gaki. You're going to pay for your transgressions against me and Konoha. You're going to regret ever being born and taking Kushina away from me. I only stayed my hand when we first met because Jiraiya was with you and assumed control over your person was assured. After robbing me of the few people I have left, I'm going to enjoy making the rest of your days alive miserable and hell on earth." Country 1 day later. "I can't believe we're going to meet the Spring Daimyo," exclaimed Fu happily, while Naruto could only smirk at the prospect of meeting the Spring Daimyo. Naruto was as well, but to keep Jiraiya's spies at bay, he had acquired 2 full body cloaks with hoods to conceal their faces. Fu had bombarded him with questions after he returned from meeting with the Raikage and Killer Bee about his future plans. After answering and explaining things to Fu, the girl was eager to find out who they were going to meet next because the Spring Daimyo was a famous actress all rolled into one. Meeting a daimyo was an honor in and of itself, but meeting one who was an actress and considered the best ever to grace the cinema stage was even more spectacular in the green-haired Jinchuriki's mind. And it was all because of Naruto-sama. Fu had no idea when she started calling him that, but once she started, there was no stopping her, and given Naruto lineage Sama's was that of shinobi royalty. It was kind of fitting. He could theoretically outrank a Kage or even a daimyo because his mother was Uzumaki royalty, according to what Naruto learned from the Raikage. Not only that, but Kumo had an Uzumaki summoning scroll, which was only available to those with Uzumaki blood in their veins. A had admitted to the blonde in his office that after Whirlpool fell, which he had denied Kumo had any involvement in, his shinobi under the newly appointed second Raikage had ordered a team head there to find anything useful, and had discovered the scroll. Of course, once it was discovered to be a summoning scroll, the shinobi in possession of it were tasked with summoning the animal within, and they failed miserably. And by miserably, I meant that the particular animal they summoned bit the shinobi who summoned it in half before explaining to those around him that only someone of Uzumaki blood could summon his kin, and thus would serve no one else. One of the reasons Naruto's mother was considered a prime target for capture was to not only have her bloodline in Kumo, but also to have future offspring who could use the animal summoned to strengthen the village. Naruto, upon hearing the name of the summoned animal, wished to reclaim the summoning scroll, which was a family heirloom from the Uzumaki clan. I had been hesitant at first, but Naruto's expression told the Raikage that if he didn't comply, the blonde Uzumaki would become violent, and rumors of how damaging an Uzumaki can be when pissed off played heavily in the Raikage's mind. I didn't want that because he sensed there was and desired and agreed to the terms of the agreement they had arrived to make. On one condition that the Raikage thought was more than reasonable. Killer Bee was about to rap about why Naruto put him in that condition, but Yugito, in what appeared to be a jealous fit over it, smashed her fist into Bee's face and busted his jaw, rendering him unable to speak for the next few days until medics fixed it. To say the least, Naruto found it amusing. Of course, we'll be respectful, but you don't have to get all submissive in her presence, and watch what you say. Just be friendly and treat her with the respect she deserves, Naruto replied, seeing Fu nod as the boat they'd soon be on set sail for Spring Country. Naruto, Naruto! Exclaimed Inari, and Naruto turned to see the boy approaching him with a worried expression on his face. What is it, Inari? Naruto asked, seeing the boy struggling to catch his breath. Konoha shinobi. A large group. They've crossed the bridge. They're looking for you with a whole bunch of them. Someone mentioned one with the dog saying, I picked up his scent, with one with bulging veins around his eyes saying, I picked up his chakra trail, before they followed the two deeper into town. They could be here at any minute. Inari worriedly exclaimed, while Naruto grimaced and Fu looked concerned. Go find your mother and grandfather. Tell them and everyone else to stay out of our way, as well as theirs. I don't want anyone in Wave getting hurt because of us. Fu. Tell the captain I'll pay him 3 times what he normally charges if we leave now," commanded Naruto, and Fu was gone seconds later, with Inari nodding and running off to spread the word to give both sides a large gap to keep casualties to a bare minimum. Sure enough, Naruto found himself staring at the Konoha shinobi, who was now blocking any chance of him returning the way he came, and many of them seemed pleased to see him again. Well, perhaps pleased isn't the right word. They were glad to see him, but not in the way that a friend would greet a friend they hadn't seen in a long time and wanted to sit down for a drink before catching up on old times. No. Their appearance was that of someone they were hunting, finding, and bringing back to display as a trophy. And right now, they were looking at him as if he were a trophy, with specific body parts chosen by each to mount on the walls of their respective homes. That someone would receive an arm, then the other, his leg if not both, his various organs in a special preserving case with a title indicating who they belonged to, and of course, the Uzumaki's head would be mounted on their wall. Naruto could only imagine it looking like some of the animals some hunters have that stare at you with pleading eyes, as if they are already dead. "Hey, brat. You've changed. You've grown a little taller, I see," Jiraiya said, noticing the boy was dressed differently now. "And you're still the same foolish pervert who doesn't care about their godson, old fool." "Does Tsunade know?" asked Naruto, as Jiraiya frowned at him. "Know what?" Jiraiya asked, with Naruto staring at him with cold, furious eyes. The kind of life his favorite student, who became Hokage, once had. "Your hand in whirlpools fall. That the leaf killed all the Uzumakis there just so Konoha could keep control of the fox sealed in my gut. Tsunade was an Uzumaki on her grandmother's side, correct?" Naruto explained as Jiraiya stiffened and several of the group looked at the Sannin. "I'm not sure what you're on about," Jiraiya said, seeing Naruto scowl at him, and the Sannin could tell the boy didn't believe him. "You keep telling yourself that, but I know you had a hand in it. Konoha betrayed my clan, betrayed my mother, and the village will burn for it, I promise you." "You keep telling yourself that, but I know you had a hand in it," Naruto replied, as Jiraiya and the others prepared to fight. "Not if we take you down first, Naruto. Kind of hard to get your so-called revenge on Konoha if you're in a cell and unable to call upon Kyuubi's chakra," Jiraiya explained, as Naruto laughed. "Is that why you've brought so many of my old so-called comrades here to fight me? Are you hoping that I'll have some qualms about killing them all just because of old memories of us having fun together?" asked Naruto, as Jiraiya narrowed his eyes at him. "I'll say it once, Naruto. Surrender and you will not be harmed," Jiraiya said as Naruto laughed. "That's like a cat asking a bird to fly down to the ground in front of him, if a cat could talk and a bird were that gullible. Who do you think I am, Ero Sennin? The Uchiha? The fool would do just about anything if you told him it would grant power to his already pathetic frame. He's like a blind rabbit and power as the carrot. Dangle it in front of his nose and he'll come running. You're coming with us, Naruto, whether in one piece or in pieces, and the Kyuubi's powers won't help you here," Shikamaru said as he moved to entrap Naruto discreetly with his shadow possession jutsu and noticed the Uzumaki smirking at him. "Oh. Is that why you're slowly moving your shadow to grab Shikamaru? Is that why so many of you are here as well? To bind, hurt, and disable me? To be dragged back to Konoha where they'll do unspeakable things to me? You all look at me and think I'm some kind of monster or demon in human skin. Truth is, I'm just the jail, the warden, the guards, and the walls for the prisoner inside. You're a demon. That's all we need to know," Ino replied, to which many in the group agreed. Naruto noticed Hinata hadn't and was hesitant to challenge him. Something the Uzumaki would save for later when reminding the Raikage of their agreement. "You say that now to me, but ask yourself this one question about your lives. What would you do if the Yondaime Hokage sealed the Kyuubi into you? Would you put up with all the hatred, pain, abuse, and their belief that Jinchuriki are lower than garbage they throw? Imagine yourself as a Jinchuriki, with your oh-so-loving parents abandoning you for holding the demon everyone despises, and the people trying to get their 10 pounds of flesh. They would never do that to us," exclaimed Tenten, with the rookies and guys team stealing their resolve and Naruto simply laughing. "Are you sure? Ask them to their faces. Look them right in the eyes. Make them swear on everything they hold sacred that when they tell you their answer, it is the truth. That there is not a single form of lie or a hint of deceit in their eyes, hearts, and very souls. Ask them what they would do if you, your offspring, and child were made into the Kyuubi Jinchuriki instead of me? The answer may surprise you," Naruto replied, letting. "Enough. Take him now," exclaimed Jiraiya, as one half of the group moved to the left, the other to the right, and Jiraiya attacked in the middle. "How can you possibly hope to take me when I'm not even here?" said Naruto before yelling, "Poof!" to reveal that the person they were speaking with was a shadow clone of the real him. "What? Where is he, Neji?" Jiraiya asked, seeing the boy frowning with Neji's Byakugan active. "Kyuubi's chakra is everywhere. All I see is a thick orange mist that prevents my eyes from determining whether the Naruto in front of us is the real one. He must have coated the area with it earlier to fool my eyes," exclaimed Neji, enraged by the Uzumaki's deception. "There is another source of chakra in the area that is similar but not the same as Naruto's, and my bugs are telling me that they sense it on that ship," Shino said, pointing to the large vessel that had just left the port during their conversation with the shadow clone. Even if they could walk on water to the boat, it would take too long and sap a lot of their energy from fighting the blonde. "Damn it. That ship is heading to Spring Country, and you can't get in," Jiraiya rubbed his brow. "But you can, Jiraiya-sama," Kakashi replied, with Jiraiya shrugging. "Even if I did, the Spring Daimyo will no doubt keep an eye on my activities there, and if she finds out I'm hunting Naruto, well, let's just say that in and of itself would be enough to have her arrest me," Jiraiya replied, given that Spring Country had effectively banned all shinobi from Konoha, with himself being the sole exception due to his Sannin traveling rights. Even if it was at risk of being of little use in terms of getting him to where he needed to go right now. "So, in other words, we can pursue him while letting the demon brat go?" Asuma asked, as Jiraiya sighed again. "Look. No one here is thrilled by this turn of events, especially me. But that's politics, and when a daimyo forbids you from entering his or her lands, you obey. Koyuki may have a minor shinobi village, but she has the love and support of her people, as well as all the advanced technological wonders it holds, such as chakra armor and airships. We may have a wealthy village, but to even build and maintain one of those airships. And how long do you expect that to take?" Shikamaru asked, as Jiraiya shrugged. "I honestly have no idea," Jiraiya replied before the group turned around to head home, with none of the adults realizing that Naruto's words about being despised by the village if one of them was the Kyuubi Jinchuriki instead of him were replaying in their heads. 3 days later in Spring Country. "Naruto? Is that you, Uzumaki Naruto?" Koyuki asked as she rose from her throne and walked towards the blonde shinobi warrior before wrapping him in a hug. And apparently not noticing the green-haired girl next to him fighting back the scowl that threatened to appear on her face. "Hello, Koyuki-chan. It's been a long time since we last saw each other," Naruto replied warmly, making sure to keep his claws retracted into his gauntlet and the safety mechanism activated before entering to help ensure no instant release of the lethal weapon. "Yes. During the mission to bring me here and become the new ruler of the country, not to mention fighting off my uncle Doto and his snow shinobi," Koyuki replied, recalling the fighting and Naruto's never say die attitude. "From what I've seen, they're your shinobi, and they're growing in numbers from the looks of it," Naruto said, noticing quite a few of them around the castle despite their best efforts to remain hidden. That they are, though some of them probably need additional training if they can be seen with your eye, Koyuki replied, and it was only now that the woman realized the boy who had saved her had lost one of his eyes. And she suspected Konoha was behind it all. Despite the Hokage's efforts to keep it hidden, she had learned what had occurred. The Kazekage and the people of Wave Country had spread the word about Konoha's cruelty to Naruto, and the word quickly spread like wildfire. It was uncontrollable and uncontained, and it moved from one elemental country to the next like a raging storm. When word got back to Naruto's friends, they knew who to blame and decided to punish Konoha for their actions. The end of trading rights, alliances, and the movie deal that would have put Icha Paradise on the big screen. After that, Konoha's enemies attacked the village mercilessly, leaving the shinobi village alone to deal with its attackers. Koyuki thought it was appropriate because Naruto had no doubt been in the same situation within the village when he was attacked from all sides with no help from almost anyone. Turning around was fair game, and this was it. They're well hidden in the castle, but I've just got the edge in sensing them. I'll teach them a few things while I'm here for the next few days. I'm actually here on business and have to head to Mist to speak with the Mizukage about some things, Naruto explained, with Koyuki looking a little sad at his departure but still thrilled to have him here in the palace for a few days. Well, you are most certainly welcome here, though I must ask who the girl with you is. A girlfriend? Asked Koyuki, who saw the girl blush while Naruto smirked. Nice try, Koyuki-chan. This is Fu. She is a Jinchuriki like me and was from Taki village, though she wasn't living there because of it, Naruto explained, bowing to the woman in respect for her position. Really? That's horrible how they treated her just for being a Jinchuriki, Koyuki replied, half thinking about writing Taki's leader a scolding letter, but decided against it because doing so would cause additional problems for Naruto and Fu, and because she doubted the green-haired girl was allowed to leave with the Uzumaki. I know. I'm actually gathering friends and allies to combat an organization trying to collect the Biju together by extracting them from Jinchuriki. I've been told by a reliable source that such an act on Fu, myself, or any Jinchuriki for that matter would be fatal, explained Naruto, referring to Kyuubi's explanation that being removed from the blonde was similar to what happened to Kushina, only several times worse. Kushina had barely survived Madara's extraction process, which had occurred after she had given birth to Naruto. Well, you have a friend in Spring Country. What are your plans? Koyuki replied, as Naruto smirked at her. Let's all sit down somewhere private and talk about it. We have a lot to talk about, Naruto said, motioning for her two guests to follow. Everything was falling into place.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.